Satang Prasanga.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, and welcome to today's session. How are you doing? I pray that all is well with you and your families at this time. So today we're moving on to another letter, and it's to Bhagavan Das. Bhagavan Prabhu used to be one of the GBCs or the heads of the South African Yatra in the early days, and a very significant contribution he has offered to ISKCON. So this letter is in his early years, 1970, and we see Prabhupada also using the traditional format that we've seen before, the Tri Dandi Goswami, that kind of format. So let's have a look at this letter. Prabhupada writes here, Tri Dandi Goswami, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, founder Acharya of International Society for Krishna Consciousness, Center, 1975, Solasiniga Boulevard, Los Angeles, California, 90034. Date January 10th, 1970. So Prabhupada starts the letter, the top of the letter, he starts, My dear Bhagavan Das, please accept my blessings. I beg to acknowledge receipt of your letter dated January 6, 1970. So it's just 4 days. Prabhupada replied to his letter just in 4 days. And I have noted the contents. I also thank you very much for your appreciation of my books and letters and for my speaking in the meetings. So he acknowledged Prabhupada's books and saying, wow, the philosophy that you're giving out here in these books are just absolutely amazing. They really transcendentally move the mind and move the heart. So Prabhupada is commenting on his books now. So here's the author commenting on his own books. Let's see what he has to say. They are not my words. Prabhupada is saying, I'm writing these books, but these are not my words. You know, Prabhupada had a very astute, erudite level of English. And it was the precise words describing what he wanted to say. Gargamuni Prabhu comments on this one incident where Prabhupada was, because these were teachers, you know, Gargamuni Brahmananda was a teacher. So, and they had English as their majors. So, Gargamuni was commenting once that Prabhupada was telling him about watering the plant. And he said, if you put water into the plant, then it percolates through the soil. So, he heard this word percolate. He said, who uses this word percolate? The Swamiji is saying percolate. You sure this is the right word? So they looked it up in the dictionary. And what do you think? It exactly describes the movement of water from the top to the bottom. And it gave the example of soil, percolating through soil. So he said, wow, Prabhupada just has the right words. The challenge that comes across, and that's a big contentious issue right now by changing the grammar of Prabhupada. Even sometimes when I'm reading these letters, you'll see me hesitate a bit and read a bit slower, is because it doesn't flow grammatically sometimes. Like a letter A would be missing, or the word the will be missing. And this is how the people here in India speak anyway. So they don't use the word the. Really, very few people use the word the. They'll just describe the object straight away. So Prabhupada was, when he would describe things, he would do the same. So even in his letters, sometimes they are there's a little grammar error in the letter. So in his books, Prabhupada would never speak anything. I think he even says that. He never speaks anything out of the parampara. But grammatically, there was probably a little adjustment that was required, and that's what he told his editors to do, that adjust the grammar. And so there's the contention over there that, Prabhupada's books are being changed, and I think nobody has ever changed Prabhupada's principle, what he's meaning to say. Because that's the essence of what the person is saying. It's not the grammar, it's not anything else, it's the meaning that you're conveying. Remember, writing is just another medium of communication. It's written communication. So on this issue, just one simple point. At the moment, it's Pitru Paksha at the moment, as a tradition that's being followed. So when they were describing this, the devotees wrote about this Pitru Loka. They wrote it as P3. P3 Loka. P-E-A, peas, like in matar in Hindi. Peas, P-E-A, space, T-R-E-E. P3 Loka. The planet that has pea trees. So that's how they wrote it. So the editors got in and said, no, this is Pitri Loka, because they're hearing Prabhupada over the dictaphone. And this is what it sounded to them like, and it's completely new information. They have nothing to relate to it as. So they said, it must be talking about a planet that has full of pea trees. And Prabhupada said, no, this is Pitri Loka. Pitri is the ancestral planets. So you can see like a mistake like that. So don't you think that needed to be adjusted? So like that, but has the message changed? No. So what is the meaning that you're saying? That should never be changed. But grammar, of course, in date and time, circumstance, even certain words that Prabhupada would use, like bona fide. Who uses those words today? Maybe in legal terms, yes, but there's certain ways that Prabhupada, when you read, you just know this is Prabhupada writing here. So he had that style about him as a writer as well. So Prabhupada is saying, these are not my words. As I have repeatedly informed you that I am simply the bearer of the message. So Prabhupada is saying, I'm simply the bearer of the message. I'm just thinking of Jaladuta. Jaladuta, the name of the ship that Prabhupada came on. Jaladuta, it wasn't even a ship, it was a boat actually. Malti Mataji speaks about this, that when they went to see actually what the Jaladuta looked like, they were looking for a big ship, cargo freighter. It was a small boat. So can you imagine something like that going all across the Atlantic? So it wasn't a huge, and the name of it, Jaladuta. Jal in Bengali means water, even in Hindi, Jal means water. And Duta, Rama Duta. Duta means the messenger or the message. So Jaladuta, the message is coming by the water. So on the water, the message is coming. Prabhupada is carrying that message. So he's saying here also, I'm just a messenger. These words are not mine. So we know in a very elevated state of Krishna consciousness, the pure devotee is simply working under the direction of Krishna. And in that state, he's simply hearing the Super Soul and repeating what the Super Soul is saying. So he's connected to the level of the Super Soul, and then from that level, he's repeating just as an instrument. Prabhupada says, I'm just an instrument. What is an instrument? It doesn't act any independently, just situates itself in the hand of the person using it. It doesn't act any differently. And that's the constitution. That's the constitution of the soul. It simply acts as a servant of Krishna. Prabhupada goes on to say here, message of Lord Chaitanya through the disciplic succession and I do not make any additions or subtractions. So Prabhupada is saying, I don't change anything. But what is he talking about? He's talking about the message. He's certainly not talking about the grammar. I mean, can you imagine if we had to translate directly and we have had that experience where we're translating directly the works of Rupa Goswami or Jiva Goswami from the Bengali or from the Sanskrit straight into English as it's written there, because every culture has a way it says things. The meaning is understood, the meaning is one, but the way it's saying things and way it describes things, then that may vary. So if you had to translate straight from Sanskrit, you won't have any idea what this is talking about, because the emphasis is given differently in different cultures. But once the meaning is understood, that is universal. So Prabhupada is saying, I've never changed anything or added anything. I simply convey the meaning as it was given by the acharyas. So I think that's very important to understand as devotees, especially with this contention at the moment about, they're changing Prabhupada's books, and, it's nice that they're reading Prabhupada's books to see that changes are happening. That I'm very happy about, actually, because very few people do take the time to read Prabhupada's books. But if you're reading it to find the critique of where the changes are, then be careful, because the message is not changed. And certainly, look at Bhaktisiddhanta's writing. Now you can imagine, from Jiva Goswami to the Goswamis to Bhaktisiddhanta to Bhakti Vinod, if you read their writings and read what Prabhupada is writing, grammatically it's completely different. Completely different. But meaning, identical. Meaning is one. But the grammar, completely. Read Bhaktisiddhanta's Brahma Samhita, and then you'll understand what I'm talking about. Please have a dictionary with you when you're doing that. So if we are to write like Bhakti, follow the parampara and write like Bhaktisiddhanta, who'll read that book? You need a dictionary with that. We'll have to sell Brahma Samhita wood dictionary. BBT will have Brahma Samhita special wood dictionary. So we have to see and understand, we need to receive the meaning must never change. The principles must never change. But surely the grammar or the syntax, that has to be adjusted for time and place. How is Prabhupada's books going to be scholarly if he's got minor mistakes like missing out the, missing out the A? Then they're going to look at this and say, this person can't even speak grammatically right, grammatically correct, although his content is good. So it's our duty to make sure that for our time, community of people who understand things in a certain way, those things are corrected. That's just my opinion on it. It's not a universal statement. I just so that we can have peace of mind and move on with Prabhupada's books. Otherwise, we tend to get stagnated on the issue, why, this, that, and then time is going by and you never actually read Prabhupada's books. Or if you're reading it, you're trying to read it to see where they made the mistakes and where they're changing it. Is that the purpose of reading spiritual literature? See, we're going to miss the point. So don't let the effects of Kali Yuga come into this environment. Let it be pure. Prabhupada's message is pristine. Prabhupada goes on to say here, similarly, if you all carry out these words successively, then the transcendental parampara system will be exactly maintained and people in general will be benefited. So the parampara system, like I was saying, from what Jiva Goswami wrote to what Bhakti Vinod Thakur wrote to what Bhakti Siddhanta wrote to what Prabhupada wrote, grammatically, syntax, all different. Message, all identical. Prabhupada goes on to say, I am very much obliged to my disciples because they are realizing the importance of Krishna consciousness movement, and it is very much encouraging to me. That's nice, because Prabhupada is saying, help me with this. So please help me with this by spreading and going to places and passing on this message of Lord Chaitanya. So he's appreciating this effort from these young devotees. This is really very, very sweet. Prabhupada goes on to say, please therefore continue the standard of understanding. Read regularly our books. See, Prabhupada again is saying that read the books regularly. I think we made this point quite clear, that please make time to read Prabhupada's books. Open a book and read it. Read it directly as page to page and see the difference then. Prabhupada is commenting on that. And try to expand and preach the philosophy as far as possible. And then as you're understanding, you're naturally going to get enlivened. And because it's having meaning to you. And once it has meaning to you, then you definitely want to share it with someone. You'll grab anybody on the road and say, hey, Haribol, Krishna is saying this. Because it has so much meaning and clarity to you. So you're trying to share that clarity with everyone. Because you can see how the world is suffering. You can see how people are suffering due to ignorance. Tamasoma jyotirgamaya. Asatoma satgamaya. Tamasoma jyotirgamaya. You help them come out of ignorance into light, into understanding. Light is always understood as light, as understanding. That's where we get the word enlightenment from. Enlightenment from light or understanding. Prabhupada goes on to say, I am glad that you have a nice dictaphone. I am sending here with one tape number 6. Please try to work on it. Edit it nicely and make 2 carbon copies and 1 original. So this is the other point, that Prabhupada was not actually a writer. He was translating onto tapes. He never actually written any direct books. He may have written books like Easy Journey to Other Planets, and in the earlier years, those were written. But most of the other books of Prabhupada was transcribed from tapes. And what is the challenge with that? The challenge is Prabhupada had a strong accent. He's dealing with a different culture, and his accent is very strong, and he's speaking in a different language, Sanskrit. And here are young boys and girls with no experience in this field, and simply out of enthusiasm then trying to help. And surely don't you think there's going to be some mistake in understanding what he's saying in the word or the words or the grammar? Surely that's going to happen because of such challenges. But they never ever change Prabhupada's message. So Prabhupada goes on to say here, the original may be sent to me, and the carbon copies may be kept with you for the present, and we shall call for them when needed. So Prabhupada's system, make 2 copies, 2 carbon copies, and keep the original. Prabhupada, you would have this, you would keep things in a little box and then lock that. Then you take that key, put it in another box and lock that. Then he'll put that key in another box and lock that, and then at least 3 or 4 boxes like that, and then he'll keep that one key with him. So that's the way he worked, that's the way he felt secure, that's the way he would do things. Prabhupada's uniqueness. So it's a very interesting letter. We've just covered probably half of it at the moment. There's a very beautiful, deep question that comes up, which we will cover tomorrow. So I hope you have a good day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Hare Krishna.